So thank you for coming into our studio.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks for
Elias
having me.
Alvarez. I'm the senior student reporter here. And to begin with these questions, I just first want to ask you, how has it been going back to your campaign?
Well, I feel like as governor, I've never really stopped campaigning. I'm focused on what Arizonans are looking for from me as governor and how I can deliver on those. And when I talk to Arizonans across the state, I hear about rising costs, growing the economy, investing in public education, protecting our water, and securing the border. And those are the things I've really focused on as governor. And I think that's the best thing I can do to win another term from Arizona voters.
And since this is a topic I wanted to cover later on, but since you gave me the opportunity to, I did want to ask about our water security.
Yes.
As we know, Arizona and I would say Yuma is the one that supplies about 90% of both degree relief for the other states during the winter season. What are the steps that are being taken to secure Arizona's water supply as the water agreement comes to an end?
Yes, very good question. And the point you made about Yuma's agriculture industry is one of the key arguments we're making in terms of why it's so important to protect Arizona's fair share of the Colorado River. We're in the thick of negotiations right now. The federal government had set a deadline for the 7 basin states to reach an agreement yesterday. That deadline came and went without an agreement. So I think we're still going to continue to be in conversation. Arizona has continued to learn to live with less water as we continue to fuel the agriculture industry here in Yuma, as well as American manufacturing, primarily in Phoenix. We're home to millions of Americans, including 22 of the 30 basin tribes that rely on Colorado River water. And so our stake in this is really, really important. And I'm going to continue to fight for Arizona's water. We need the upper basin states to come to the table with real sacrifices, and they haven't been willing to do that. And we've asked the federal government to really step in and work to use their leverage they have as the federal government to broker a deal. That hasn't happened yet, but we're still going to be in conversation, and I am fighting as hard as I can for Arizona's water, and I've made it really clear that any deal that puts the brunt of any new cuts on Arizona is unacceptable.
Awesome. And are there any precautions being taken to ensure that our community will not be impacted if any cuts are being made to Arizona?
So we're working right now, in addition to the negotiations with the 7 basin states, talking to the Colorado River users in Arizona to look at a scenario of how additional cuts would be distributed and impacted. So we're having those conversations, but if it comes to it, if we have to go to court to protect the industry here, we will do that.
Thank you. And also, we have some questions about about your upcoming campaign, with you stating that you would be running for re-election. What is it that you are doing so far to connect to young voters?
Oh, that's a really great question. I talked about some of the issues I hear from Arizonans, and I think, I have 2 kids, 27 and 24, and they're, like a lot of other people their age, feeling the pinch of rising costs, how hard it is to afford rent and housing. And so those things are really big priorities for me. Looking at how we can make housing more affordable, everything I can do to make costs lower, knowing that, Washington right now is engaged in a trade war that's raising costs on everyone. I also hear from young people just the unaffordability of education and wanting an education that's within reach that also puts a good career within reach. And so we've made a lot of investments, not just in universities, but community colleges, workforce development, a lot of programs that don't require a college degree, but put you on a path to a high-paying career. And so we're going to continue to do that as well.
It's nice to have you here. My
you.
name is Saghey Bárcenas, and I'm one of the hosts here in KAWC for the program Siendo Primero, being first. And we talk about the student voices.
Yes.
So it's something special to have you here.
Thank you.
And what do you think about the students here in Arizona, that not just in Yuma campus? What do you expect for these students?
Well, as the governor of Arizona, I have high hopes for this generation of students. We are bringing a lot of economic growth to our state, and that's creating a lot of opportunities for people to get into good paying jobs. And so I want to make sure that we're investing in this generation of students so that you can take advantage of those jobs, and that we will continue to bring that growth and build that opportunity for future generations. But so that students now can look at having a family-sustaining career that may or may not need a college degree, but we're creating those pipelines for you to get into training that will help you get there.
And you announced that you're running for re-election. We want to know more about it.
Yeah. So I love being governor. I have the best job in America. I get to every day deliver on the things that are important to Arizonans. And traveling the state, coming to communities like Yuma that often are kind of left out is really important to me, hearing from folks across the state. I have focused my time as governor on really just tackling the tough challenges that I think a lot of career politicians have kicked aside, have ignored. And to do that really well, you have to focus on the issues and not the politics, and put Arizonans first in that conversation. And I think that's what I've focused on doing. I'm really proud of the work we've done. I talked about workforce investment, job growth, water security. I know that there's more to do, and I'm ready to get it done.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. And so you mentioned that your priorities for helping students are with job opportunities and also affordable housing and the water security. What is it that you are doing related to their voices? Like, how are you making sure that the youth is able to reach out to you and have a voice in your campaign?
That is a really great question. I think that if across the board, we have to run campaigns differently than we have before. Not everybody gets their information from traditional media sources. And so it's making sure that we're in all of those spaces where people are getting their information. And that's a lot of spaces where young people are. And not just like putting our information out there, but engaging the influencers, and not just necessarily influencers in those political spaces, but in other areas where people might not necessarily think about politics, but we can connect with people in that way. So I think that's a really important aspect of our campaign.
Thank you. And I want to mention the Student Newsroom also interviewed Deja Fox, who had been running against Adelita Grijalva previously. And she had a campaign where she was using social media in order to be able to reach out to young people. Have you been using anything similar that is not, I would say, a traditional way of contacting people, like through Instagram or any other ways of social media?
Yeah, so I actually was on her podcast a while back, right before she announced her run for Congress. So I think that's a great example of when I talk about not just putting my information out there, but working with those influencers, both in and out of political spaces, and making sure that we're giving folks the tools from our campaign to get the information out that we are trying to get out. So, she's an incredible influencer. She garnered a lot of national attention for her campaign in ways that, somebody else who wasn't as, in those spaces as she is wouldn't have been able to do.
Thank you. And you mentioned that you want to get a message out to young people. What is exactly the message?
Well, I think as governor of Arizona, I said this before, but I've worked to take on a lot of the challenges that have been kicked down the road. We have a housing affordability crisis. We didn't get there overnight. We're not going to fix it overnight, but I'm working to fix it. we've been underfunding public education, which I think really is what creates opportunity for all Arizonans, no matter where they live. We're working to fix that and address those challenges. So I want to hear from young people the concerns they have. I know those are a couple, and I'm not going to stick my head in the sand and ignore the issues. I'm going to continue to work to take them on. I think that's, as governor, I see my role not just being here to hold on to a seat, but to actually tackle the tough challenges that are going to either prevent us from moving forward or put us in the best possible path forward for future generations.
Thank you. And as you mentioned that there are a lot of cuts being made and a lot of resources being taken during the government shutdown. As we know, 50,000 people in Yuma rely on SNAP benefits to be able to put food on their table. And there's a lot of back and forth in Washington. When do you expect SNAP to be paid in full?
Well, we Arizonans got SNAP benefits loaded onto their cards. It is normally a sort of rolling process. And so I think everyone can expect to have full benefits. And Congress today should be voting on the bill that will reopen the government. So hopefully that will put an end to all of this. I will say this. I've been angry so many times about Washington politicians using people who rely on SNAP benefits as political leverage in this shutdown and this political fight. That should have never happened. There's no reason that the federal government couldn't have paid full benefits. And the president kept going to court to stop it from happening, to stop paying benefits that people rely on. And the state doesn't have the money to backfill. We weren't able to backfill. So we followed the federal guidance when they said you can issue the benefits, and we did. But then they kept giving different guidance, and it kept causing all this confusion for people. And I, as someone who grew up at times relying on SNAP benefits, I can't imagine the chaos and frustration that would cause for a family who wasn't sure if they were going to be able to go to the grocery store and buy groceries or not sure if those benefits would show up on their card, how frustrating that is. And it made me angry. And it's, I think, a perfect example of why people get frustrated with politics and kind of just tune out because Washington politicians play these games.
Thank you. And is declaring a state of emergency still an option you're considering?
Well, I'm hopeful that today the government reopens and then this will all be behind us. But certainly in wanting to make sure that people had the resources they needed, that was an option that we considered. It's not one we ended up taking, and hopefully, if things go the way they should today, then we won't need to.
Thank you. And if the government does happen to open up again, would there still be funds being delivered to SNAP? And if so, about how many funds would that bring? And do you believe that is that enough?
My understanding is that if the government reopens, that everyone will get their full month of November's benefits. But also in Arizona, we issued the benefits based on earlier guidance. And so everyone in Arizona should have those benefits.
Thank you. And if those people in Arizona get their benefits this month, is it guaranteed that they will continue to get them for the rest of the year?
For those folks who maintain eligibility, there should be, as long as the government's reopen, there should not be any disruption to their December benefit.
Thank you. And if they do get their November benefits, do we know that money will belong to them, or will they have to pay it back?
I have no understanding that anyone would have to pay back benefits. I don't think that's an issue that should happen.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Also, it's very important for us hearing your point of view about everything, because as students, we have to know more about it.
Okay.
So I want to know, what are your priorities, your specific points to support these students or the young people here in Arizona?
Yeah, well, I think, I've talked a lot about affordability and workforce investment. I think those, when I go around the state, those are two of the top issues that I hear from people across the board. But I think especially students who are looking at, being able to build a quality of life, a career, those are key issues. And I've done a lot on housing affordability. I've made a lot of workforce investments with community college, apprenticeships, career and technical education programs, and universities. And we'll continue to look for ways that we can do that to make sure that we're meeting the needs of industry, creating opportunities for Arizonans, and continuing to bring those opportunities to Arizona.
And now in your position, what are you doing to maintain that local talent here in Arizona?
I think that's such a good point. And the reason that we're benefiting from so much investment of companies wanting to come here is because we have that talent. And so I know that we need to be strategic about how we're aligning that talent with the workforce needs, because the whole point of bringing investment here is to create that opportunity for Arizonans. So we want to continue to create that opportunity. So I'm really focused on making sure that we continue to grow the workforce and align our students with the industry that's coming to our state, that's providing high-paying jobs. And I think also just in terms of investments in community college are really important. Community colleges are such economic drivers for their communities. And we know that if we train workforce in a particular place, people who have grown up here and want to stay here, they'll be able to. And healthcare is a great example of that. There's healthcare needs everywhere. And if we can build those programs in our community colleges, people can train for those jobs and stay in their communities. I was just in Springerville last week, and there was a wall. They don't have OB at that center anymore, but the health center I was at. But there was a wall of footprints of babies that were delivered there, and some of those babies are now nurses in that facility. And people should be able to think about, how can I grow up in this community and have a good, paying, fulfilling job in this community if I want to stay here? And that's what investment in community colleges does.
And now that you mentioned that point, Arizona is known for agriculture and healthcare.
Yes.
In your government, do you want to add another fields for that?
Well, we definitely need to continue to support the agriculture industry, especially here in Yuma. And I'm spending the day here and looking at some really high-tech advancements that are helping our agriculture industry really grow and thrive. Healthcare is always going to be a need. And so we need to make sure we're growing the workforce there. But Arizona is also booming in a lot of high-tech manufacturing, semiconductors, batteries, electric vehicles, so much high-tech manufacturing. And I think that's really, and aerospace and defense as well. I think those are really the areas we're focusing on in terms of the jobs that are coming and growing that workforce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.